It's that time again. It's the podcast that takes your personal and professional life to a whole new level. Whether you're selling a product, selling a service, or selling yourself, one thing is for sure. You're always selling for life. All right, and welcome to another installment of the Selling for Life podcast, sponsored by Conequip Parts, a world of parts with a personal touch. This podcast is about more than just selling stuff or even just selling yourself. We think if you stick around, you'll get a lot out of it. And this is episode 26. I'm Steve, and I am the one and only one driving the ship today. And it's glad to be back. Good to have you guys here. And this episode is going to probably be a quick one, but I want to have a little discussion about something that was on my mind today. One of the things that I want to talk about is a Netflix documentary that I saw on something called Fyre Festival. It was very good. Something that went down about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. If you haven't seen it, I'll try not to spoil it for you, but an entrepreneur puts together a cool festival with Ja Rule, and they put all this time, effort, and energy and money into marketing this festival, and they sell this festival out, and it's going to be one of the biggest, most exciting parties of all time on this island that was owned by Pablo Escobar. And the days are short in terms of trying to get this festival off, and it's just falling apart. And by the end of the show, or end of the documentary, you see some bad things going down. And there was just all kinds of fraud and scam and lots of money lost. And one of the key elements for this whole fiasco was most certainly a certain amount of greed on the parts of the people involved. You'll have to watch the documentary and see for yourself just how bad it got. I recommend it to anybody, especially if you're in sales, because you can also get a few good things out of it. The ambition and whatnot of these salespeople, albeit a lot of them paid a very big penalty for the type of ambition they had. But it is definitely a very eye-opening documentary on this particular subject, and also, I guess, the world of sales and entrepreneurship and all the things that went on there. And even better than that Netflix story about a gentleman named Billy McFarland, you should look up Mr. Scott Harrison. Now, Scott Harrison was a nightclub promoter who was self-indulgent, and he lived a life that was, for many, exciting and fulfilling, because especially for guys, he was able to go out and just be the life of the party and make lots of money. But after a period of time of living that way, he found himself questioning like what his life was really all about. And he became a Christian. He called it reaching a point of emotional bankruptcy. And that's what brought him to the Lord. And he spent 2 years on a hospital ship off the coast of Liberia, and he saw the effects of dirty water firsthand and how it was affecting the third world country there. Upon returning to New York City on that trip, having seen the effects of dirty water firsthand, Scott turned his full attention to the global water crisis. It goes on to where he started a charity called Charity Water. His charity has raised millions of dollars and has helped millions of people. It's quite a story. I'm going to put a link to a video on the Selling for Life website that you really got to check out. And the whole thought here is Scott lived a life of greed. And what happened was it resulted in what he called emotional bankruptcy. It was not fulfilling. He did not have a life that he was proud of. And a great thing that came out of this is he started this charity, and he's helping so many people around the world. I strongly urge you to watch that video on the Selling for Life website. But that does bring us to the topic of the day, and the topic of the day is greed. And is greed good when it comes to sales? Is it beneficial? Will it help you in your position in sales or as an entrepreneur? You know, greed, it takes on many faces. Greed can be very ugly. And there was one particular movie a long time ago, Wall Street, starring Michael Douglas. And if you've seen it, you probably remember this scene here.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit.
Now, that was a movie, if you don't know about it, about Wall Street and insider trading and whatnot. Another good movie for you to see if you haven't seen it already. But the message there in that particular scene was greed is good. And in preparing for this little podcast, I went online to find out about what others had said about greed and sales. And I actually came across a lot of websites that seemed to indicate that greed was still good. There were a fair amount of Google searches that showed in sales training and whatnot that they used the word greed, but tried to, I guess, candy coat it a little bit. But from what I read, a lot of people out there still believe that greed is a good way to move forward in your sales profession and in life in general, because obviously greed is all about achieving for yourself and getting more for yourself. And in many ways, wanting more for yourself and trying to achieve more for yourself is a good thing. But greed, of course, also results in some other factors and results, and many of them are not good. And now I'm just going to go through a number of them here real quick. And if you are kind of struggling in your sales profession or in life, wondering whether or not greed is good in your life, and you can throw in the other words there. It doesn't necessarily have to be the word greed, but the premise is what we're going after. But greed, one of the things is you look for ways to make money, not ways to improve your life. If greed is the common denominator in your search for success and improvement, then you are probably not going to improve. Every business should want to improve customer experience. And if you're not trying to help your customer, you're not helping yourself at all. Unfortunately, many businesses seem to run counter to this idea. Instead, they're looking for ways to charge their customers more rather than help them. And that will lead to a decline in business eventually, because the people that you're dealing with, they'll figure out that you're not really caring for them. Another problem with operating with greed is you make bad personal decisions. You know, if you only care about making money, you may overlook flaws in yourself or in your employees if they are still producing strong results. For instance, you may ignore, harassment in the workplace or other things that are going on simply because you are very focused on their results and the money that they're making for the company. How many of us have worked for a company where somebody in your place of business, they're not the greatest person. They're not necessarily very beneficial or helpful in the workplace, but because they're achieving or doing well, right, the managers will overlook those things. And that's not good to cultivate a good work environment at all. And that has a lot to do with greed. You don't spend money making your employees happy. And what I mean by that is happy employees make for a good business because they are the bridge between you and your customers. When employees are unhappy, they really won't do their best. So you have to pay your employees well, first of all, and second of all, you have to treat them well. And then as a result, it might cost you a little bit more in wages, but hopefully down the line, you'll get a return on that because you'll have happy employees. They'll be doing a good job and you'll be more productive and I would imagine a better business. Another thing that having greed lead the way for you is you forego a lot of things in life that you should be able to enjoy, such as a vacation or spending time with your family or even spending time with yourself and getting to know more about who you are. So everyone needs a little bit of a break, everyone. And so greed can definitely get in the way of that. You also take on more clients than you can manage effectively. And that is probably one of the bigger parts of greed is you take on more than you can chew. And in the result, I don't need to tell you what's going to happen. You're not going to be able to serve the people around you as good as you should be able to. And so greed in many ways will cause that to be one of the ways that you go about. You also, as I said earlier, if you have someone in the workplace that is operating on greed, that person will most likely alienate their employees. They won't spend as much time getting to know them, know them on a personal level. And, the other employees might end up being, offended by someone that only seems to care about the bottom line and meeting quotas, which again is good. It's an important thing to do, but it's also more important to cultivate relationships, whether they be at home or with your fellow employees. There are a lot of things that you can go into about this particular subject, the subject of greed and how it affects your life. One of the things I think we all have to do when it comes to our motivation about making money is to find out, am I a greedy person? That's kind of a tough one because we all want money. We all want to have success. We all want to do well for ourselves and for our families. So there are various things that you can kind of do to help you figure out, am I a greedy person? Number one, what's the first thing that's on your mind when it comes to making a sale? Is it how much you made or how much you helped the person that you sold something to? Whenever you are trying to figure out something about yourself, always consider the first thing that comes across your mind. If money, the bottom line, is the first thing, that's a pretty good indication that your motivation is driven by money. Also, try to figure out how, take a step back and look at your personal life. How is your relationship with your wife, your husband? How is it with your family members of any kind? Do you find yourselves squabbling over money? And there are many different ways and different reasons to fight over money. But if you are not home enough with your spouse because you're staying late at work, and the reason why, of course, is to make money, well, then perhaps greed is a part of your life, especially with your children. You do not want to neglect your children over making more money. And that doesn't necessarily just mean because you're making a ton of money and you've got, you're able to spend it and go on vacation and buy cars and nice clothes and, do the things that having a lot of money will bring. A lot of times, greed can be based on the fact that you are working hard to just maintain. And that is a different, form of greed. That's almost like a self-preservation type of greed where you are only worried about making money so you can survive, as opposed to doing the many other things in your life that you need to do, which is, of course, build relationships and work on yourself as a person. So greed, is it good? No, it's not good. It's something that you should try to avoid and try to, work out of your life if you indeed have something like that in your life. The biggest thing, perhaps, when it comes to greed and your clients and those around you, is you end up squandering trust. When it becomes clear that you only care about making money, you risk losing even the most loyal clients. We all want someone that works for us and cares for us and sees us as more than just a dollar sign. If it requires you to make a sale for less than what you think you can get for it to keep that customer around, obviously two things. You're going to build a relationship, cultivate a relationship, but also you're going to bring somebody back who'll be willing to do business with you again. And guess what? You'll end up probably making more money in the end anyway. So I'm going to end with one scripture verse here. It's from Luke 12:15. Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." As they say, you can't take it with you in the end. So try to keep that in mind. And that brings us to the end of episode 26. It was a quick one. I hope it was helpful. Hope maybe in the end of this, you will have a new thought on greed or, some of the things I mentioned here. Listen, we'd love to hear from you, so you can contact us at contact@sellingforlife.com, and also check out our website at sellingforlife.com. So remember, whether you are selling tickets to concerts or you're trying to convince your landlord the check is really in the mail when you know it's not, don't do that. It's not good. One thing is for sure, you are always selling for life.